So, college administrators cannot handle Milo Yiannopoulos. Social justice warriors cannot handle Milo Yiannopoulos. Twitter cannot handle Milo Yiannopoulos. My name is Ariana Rollins, and I'm the president of the College Republicans at UC Irvine. And just to give you a little bit of a feel for what it's like to be the president of a college Republican group at a UC system campus, which, by the way, was the single largest donor to the Clinton campaign. After Donald Trump was elected president, there was a group cry session at our school library where over 1,000 students came together, and by the end of the night, our school library was mysteriously on fire. That's what it's like. Milo, you know, when I first met Milo, I invited him to UC Irvine to come speak. Because we invited him to come speak, when I told the administrators that I wanted him back, they told me that, well, you know, your club's now been banned for an entire year. We're the only voice of the right on campus, so as you can imagine, that would be a little bit of a problem. But thanks to Milo, we fought and we won. And ever since then, we've been fighting and we've been winning across college campuses across the nation. Milo is the single greatest help to young conservatives on college campuses to remind them that they have a voice and to show them how to use it. Milo has changed my life. Meeting and working with him has shown me how to be a leader, not just in theory, but in practice. And after everything that I've been through with him, there's one thing that he's told me that I always come back to whenever I need any sort of guidance. And it's, we must hold our own side to the same high standards that we hold theirs, or else we're no better. And that's something that whenever I need any sort of help, I come back to. And, you know, I'm very, very proud of him, and I love him a lot, and I'm very, very proud that he's receiving this award.
Okay, Ariana and I were asked at the last minute tonight to offer a little introduction for Milo. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Tom Sakata, and I write about social justice and campus politics for Breitbart News under Milo. I was the producer and co-host of his popular podcast to its first 25 episodes, and I'm a senior at Bucknell University, where I served as class president until I was removed from my post with a week remaining in my term for the grave sin of being a conservative. When Milo told me that he was selected to be the recipient of this award, I wasn't at all surprised. Milo was perhaps the most effective warrior against the social justice left on any American college campus. Milo absolutely embodies Andrew Breitbart's mantra of walking towards the fire. The tides are changing on the American college campus. Authoritarian administrators and faculty members and pearl-clutching campus social justice warriors are finally being challenged by a new brand of radicals led by Milo that are poised to reclaim the American university and return it to original function and purpose of expanding and challenging young minds. Milo teaches us that whether we are liberal, libertarian, or conservative, we're united by one common belief, that students should be able to read what we want, watch what we want, play the video games that we want, and most importantly, think that what we want. When colleges refuse to expose us to new ideas by employing politically homogenous faculties, Milo decided to do the hard work himself by traveling to schools around the country and exposing students to new ways of thinking about political correctness, about safe spaces, about social justice, and about the importance of intellectual diversity. He cares deeply about this mission. When I first asked Milo to come to speak at my university, he offered to sleep in a spare dorm room so that we, as a tiny college Republicans organization, might save the money that we would normally spend on a hotel room. One of the many things that many people don't necessarily know about Milo is that he really cares about instilling in young conservatives the confidence they need to truly make a difference in the world. And this is why Ariana and I are here today. On his birthday just a few weeks ago, I sent Milo the following text about his impact on me and my activism. Milo, this year you gave me a one-of-a-kind opportunity to do what I love, and in the process you convinced me that I have a voice. For this I will forever be grateful. I am grateful every day for the opportunity to work with Milo at Breitbart News. I know with confidence that I'm not the only young conservative that Milo has impacted in this way. I have talked to countless other students who have been emboldened in their campus activism efforts because of the confidence that Milo instilled in them. Milo understands that the battle that we are fighting on college campuses isn't necessarily a political one, but rather a cultural one. To echo some of Bill Whittle's opening remarks from last evening, our most important task is to reintegrate conservatism into the culture. Milo was a pop culture conservative, the first ever punk rock conservative. He reminds us that conservatism needs to be fun, sexy, and mischievous. And it's through individuals like Milo that we will finally be able to win over the hearts of those on the other team and the hearts of the apathetic so that we can finally take back American culture. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a man who has proven that it's possible to build a career solely off of good hair, a British accent, and attractive male counterparts, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I had a little coughing fit before I got up here. Little Clintonian moment. Came over all Hillary, which is more than Bill has been able to say for the last 20 years. Oh, it gets a lot worse than that, don't worry. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much. It feels both correct and appropriate to win. If you were in any way involved in selecting this award, thank you for your good judgment and excellent taste. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's ridiculous, completely ridiculous for me to be name-checked by generals and to be spoken of in such high terms, and particularly in respect of courage, which has always struck me as astonishing that people think that. Or maybe there's a bit of my brain missing. Anne used to say, there's the bit of her brain that would make her afraid was missing. Well, I have many more pieces of my brain missing, which is what enables me to do this. As broken and messy as I am, I'm glad it's doing some good. I want to talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing on college campuses, why I think it matters, and how you can help. But first of all, just to say thank you so much. I'm not the kind of person that wins awards because I tell jokes like the one I started with and have disgustingly foul mouth and I don't look like the kind of person you can invite home to your parents. Although mothers always love me, actually. They do. But no, this is the first thing of its kind, and it's that I've ever received. And it is, of course, completely fitting that somebody like David would be the one to issue it, because he's been on the front lines for decades, yet still has his finger precisely on the pulse of all of the most fabulous, mischievous, dissident hellraisers and mischief makers. I'm, of course, speaking about myself. And he's just that remarkable thing. He's somebody who has managed to keep his finger on the bleeding edge, right on the pulse, or whatever is happening after decades of public service. So thank you so much to David. You're really an extraordinary person. I'm very grateful to have met you. Thank you. I've just come from New York City, where Donald J. Trump was elected president. I was at the victory party. It was wonderful. It was a marvelous evening. Marvelous that he won. Even more, if I'm completely honest, marvelous, the reactions from the left, which have been wonderful. Oh my goodness, the crying, the grizzling. It's been wonderful. As you see those pictures from the Hillary, well, she didn't even show up, of course, but from the Hillary victory party that never was. It was woo! Wonderful. Brexit, of course, was the same. I did think that it was a smart and decent thing for the UK to leave the European Union, to regain control of its borders, to wrest back control of its laws from unaccountable elite bureaucracies elsewhere. I thought it was an entirely sensible thing. Very, very good thing. But if I'm completely honest, my real motivation for supporting it was the front page of The Guardian the next day, which was the most beautiful thing I think I've ever seen. Wonderful, wonderful. Look, the reaction of these people is, of course, the hysterical, monstrous overreaction of the progressive left is where I live. It is done for fun and for your edification and entertainment, but it is also done for a reason. It's done for a purpose, demonstrating the hypocrisy and hysteria and insanity of these people, demonstrating to the wider public, at least it has done so far in my tour and what I've been up to, just what kind of lunatics we're putting in charge of our country. Your country, my country, everywhere throughout the West. The people least qualified to lecture you on anything are the people being put in positions of power in organizations that lecture women about what their relationship to men should be like, that lecture the rest of us on what the relations between the genders, different people of different sexualities and people of different races should be like. The absolute worst people in the world. These social justice warriors, these horribly broken individuals who want us to be as miserable as they are. Well, sorry, but we decline. I want us to be as miserable as they are. These are the people being entrusted with the social well-being of our civilization, because our politicians have given up. Because, I'm sorry to say, and I come as a warning from Europe to give you a bit of tough love, the kind of tough love that I think Donald Trump is going to bring into the White House. Give you a bit of tough love. This movement in America, American conservatives, I'm sorry to tell you, has not really achieved very much in the last 30 years. In the culture wars, you sort of gave up. You handed Hollywood, you handed the press, and you handed academia over to the left. Well, it's time to take it back. And, you know, Americans have been... The one good thing I will say about you is you're very good at taking help. And whether it is Alexis de Tocqueville or Christopher Hitchens or some fag from England, Americans are quite good at accepting help from elsewhere. And so I'm happy to be raising hell on your campuses, because, you know, of course, if you win on campuses, you win. This is something that people don't understand after they graduate. You know, journalists are obsessed with college campuses, but really nobody else is, unless you turn it into a show, which is what I try to do. Turn it into entertainment. And when you do that, you reach everybody. Millions upon millions of people have seen the products of my wonderfully named Dangerous Faggot tour. And this does something. It achieves something. It produces a cultural, social result. Once you've started talking about politics, you've lost. Once you start talking about policy, it's all over. Andrew Breitbart, the founder of the site I work for, one of my personal heroes, understood instinctively, and I think said best and said perhaps first, that politics is downstream from culture. Once you're electing presidents, you've already lost. You need to win in Hollywood, you need to win in the academy, and you need to win in the press. And Donald Trump's election, I think, is an opportunity for you guys to take the power back. And I hope you take that opportunity. You can take... You can take that opportunity by paying attention to and giving awards to. No, I'm kidding. But support people like Tom and Ariana, these fearless new warriors that I'm very happy to have helped contribute to, you know, to the creation of. These guys are going to be the future of this movement, and some of them you're going to consider a little gauche, and some of them you're going to consider a little foul-mouthed, and some of them you're going to consider, you know, a little. You know, like Daddy, as I call Donald Trump. Like Daddy, you're going to consider some of them a little low, you know, a little whatever. But, you know, Tom and Ariana are examples, and Hunter Swagger is also here, who's a great viral phenomenon creator. These are examples of your future leading lights, people that you should be paying attention to now. And I'm happy to have contributed to the environment that created these people. You should pay attention to them, because they're going to be sitting in your places in 30 years. Hillary Clinton's supporters couldn't imagine a world that... You couldn't imagine a world in which she'd lose to Donald Trump. Look at it from their perspective. Although their candidate is obviously ill, completely out of touch with the real world, and a power-hungry 90s relic, she was surrounded by the institutions of power and staff who were curiously preoccupied with cheese pizza, as we learned from WikiLeaks, whatever that means. I don't know why anyone was surprised by those satanic ritual rumors, by the way. Is anyone else surprised by those satanic ritual rumors? Lesbianism and witchcraft go together like Donald Trump and winning. Is anyone surprised? Anyone surprised that the odious Hillary-Huma Abedin nexus was flavored by witchcraft? Come on, and we were all feigning surprise. Of course, under normal circumstances, I'd be open to allegations of hypocrisy, complaining about a same-sex loving, drug-addled megalomaniac with entitlement issues, terrible dress sense, surrounded by sycophants. But this is the presidency we're talking about. It's important. It's important. Now, look, the Democrats rigged their own primaries to get rid of Bernie Sanders. And we were laughed at for suggesting they might be willing to rig the general election. I mean, they'll do it in their primaries, but oh no, they'd never touch the election. Vast right-wing conspiracy, they called it. Well, fortunately, Donald Trump won by such a margin that it didn't matter. It was wonderful. They had all the parts in place. They had everything ready for them. They had the media, they had academia, they had everything. And then they deployed their secret weapon. They deployed the one thing they knew would destroy Donald Trump. They called him mean names. They called him racist. They called him sexist. They called him homophobic. They didn't get round to calling him transphobic, but I'm sure they thought he was transphobic. Actually, he said he was all right with the bathrooms. This is perhaps the only thing he's ever done wrong. This is a thing. This is a thing about dads, you know. You know that they love you and that they have your best intentions at heart. You know that everything's going to be okay, but occasionally they do make you cringe. Donald Trump is that kind of dad. You heard earlier that he's the strong man from my colleague Sebastian. That he's a strong man. That he's the alpha male. And I don't know why I coined that nickname Daddy. I think just because everybody is annoyed by it. Almost everyone hates it. But that is what America has done. And on college campuses where I live, there's been a shortage of alpha males for a while. I like to call myself the only remaining alpha homosexual. Despite being the woman, if you know what I mean. They told me nothing in this room was TMI, and I intend to test the limits of that claim. Now, name-calling has always worked on establishment conservatives, because they're far more worried about being called sexist or racist or homophobic than actually sticking up for their principles, occasionally, it seems to me. And the problem, I'm sorry to tell you, again, this falls into the category of tough love from your favorite gay uncle. This falls under, I'm sorry to say, the category of courage. Now, people like Tom and Ariana and Hunter and all the other students that I've met on my travels, and my tour starts again 27th of November, 3-4 shows a week, different cities every night, and unlike these lazy lefty comedians, I do a different show every fucking night. It's not easy. It starts again 27th, Penn State, you'll like it. The students that I meet on these college campuses have extraordinary courage. And really this, you know, to the extent that I deserve any recognition at all, it is really only because I act as a sort of crucible, as a catalyst to activate what is already within them, but that they perhaps don't have the courage or the confidence to express. And it's very exciting to me to watch some of them pop up as Breitbart contributors, some of them pop up as contributors elsewhere, campus reform, whatever. Various different great places that are holding the power on campuses to account. I'm emboldening them. I'm creating an army of little Milos. As horrifying as that prospect will be to everybody. But this is, you know, this is how you do it. And the conservative movement, really everywhere in the world, has lacked for a very long time, I think, those people who will go out and inspire troops. And so to the extent that people think that I'm one of those, I'm grateful and thank you. Now, Donald Trump, Daddy, is not a coward. He's not a coward. The people who voted for him are not cowards. Can you imagine America, where voting for a candidate is an act of courage? Just voting in a democracy is an act of courage. Because voting for him could expose you to physical violence. We all know where the violence comes from these days. It doesn't come from the right. It doesn't come from libertarians. They're too spaced out. Rarely come down off the weed for long enough to start a fight. On the rare occasion they're sober, it's just to check in their Bitcoin balance. Perhaps to read The Intercept. No, it's the left, and we know from WikiLeaks that Hillary Clinton, of course, funds this stuff, and she's still doing it. You know, you'd think that after this long and this much experience faking hate crimes, that the left would be better at it. But no, today, they saw this woman, oh, my hijab was pulled off and someone stole my wallet and called me a whatever. Yeah, 2 hours later, she made it all up. Some gay. Oh, I was beaten up, I got blood all down my face, I've been at the police station for 2 hours, police have to issue a statement, no such crime was recorded. And this repeats itself over and over and over again. The worst of it is when they use children. The worst of it is when they say that school children have been subjecting one another to racist abuse. Well, no. Some of them just like to chant "build the wall" now and again. Did you know that there was a school election that was cancelled by the school administrators? I think it was in New Jersey, because some of the kids wanted to vote for Trump. What did they think was going to happen? He's the most brilliantly fun, cultural candidate for president since Buchanan, maybe ever, definitely ever. And some of the kids were excited by him because he's so... He is. And just because he's... Oh, there we go. We have an internet reader. Because Trump inspires people and because he connects with people, and some people like to loftily call this populism, I just call it authenticity. He's sneered at not just by the progressive establishment, but sometimes by the conservative establishment too. That is a gigantic, colossal error in judgment. Being a Republican, I have to tell you, as a visitor to these shores, I've noticed this. Being a Republican has been a bit like being gay 30 years ago, right up until this year. Well, if you think about it, you know, if you don't stay in the closet, you get alienated from your parents, ejected from polite society, beaten up on the streets, you become a pariah. What's the difference? What's the difference? I've been called far worse names for being a conservative than I ever have for sucking dick, I can tell you that. Sorry. I told you I was going to test you. Some ladies at the back have already had enough. I've been called far worse names for believing in low taxation in a small state than for any of my deplorable nocturnal sexual proclivities. And until this year, until very recently, being Republican was a bit like being gay 30 years ago. That changed with the advent of Donald Trump. Suddenly, wearing a Make America Great Again hat became the ultimate act of defiance, of dissidence, of mischief, of subversion. I thought my fellow gays would appreciate these values. After all, it's what all the best gay culture is based on. But no, apparently not. I got called a white supremacist. Some people in the audience know why that's ridiculous. I got called a white supremacist after Out magazine had the temerity to publish a fair profile of me that suggests, you know, maybe this guy's not terrible, maybe he's got a point about it. I was a white supremacist and an anti-Semite. This name-calling, which has gone on for so long, for 30 years, if you have remotely right-of-centre views, has produced a counter-reaction embodied by me and my tour and Donald Trump and some of the other interesting things happening in culture, which is glorious to witness. It's an act of subversion. It is an act of defiance to go out in one of those red hats. And after he won, on college campuses, you know, I probably have I've certainly visited more college campuses for my sins. I live in a coffin, you know, I live in this mobile coffin. You see my bus? I have this tour bus. I don't do it for fun, you know. I do it because it has to be done. I could be at home draped in silk, surrounded by a Nigerian harem. I don't have to do this. But, here we go. She's there now. I'm probably the recipient of more campus tidbits than anybody else. And I heard, that the day after his election, I was there at the victory party in New York, by the way, it was fabulous. The day after his election, suddenly people were emboldened to wear their hats, the ones they've been silently keeping in their dorm rooms, around campus. And they were laughing at the social justice warriors crying in safe spaces. I feel so unsafe. Good. You've been bullies for 30 years. For 30 years you have lied to and lied about us. Fuck you. You should feel unsafe. You should feel unsafe. If feeling unsafe means you might get contradicted once in a while. Somebody might have a different opinion. A black person, or a gay person, or a Jew, or a woman might not agree with you about something once in a while. Shock horror. If that's what feeling unsafe means, then I say let's bring all of the unsafeness to campuses we possibly can. And I'm doing everything I can to bring that about. It's been a very exciting election season. I understand that Chris Matthews and Glenn Beck are still on suicide watch after the result. Very sad, very sad. Little Ben Shapiro also, but... It's all right, he'll come around, he'll come around. Somebody will write him a check soon. We're only just now experiencing bravery and courage by conservatives on a massive scale from the grassroots. We're only just now starting to see what a powerful conservative counter-revolution might look like. And it's wonderful. And it is, I have to tell you, spurred on by what's happening on campuses. It starts on campuses. The left has known for decades that you win in education, you win everywhere. Well, it is time for conservatives to start winning in education. I'm very happy to be part of that revolution. And you should seek out, there are some of the students who are responsible for leading it are here, and you should seek them out. They understand, as conservatives haven't for too long, that writing an essay about doing things is not the same as doing things. You have to get out there, you have to go talk to them, you have to park your glittery pink tanks on their lawn. You have to rub their noses in their hypocrisy and their hatefulness, their divisiveness, their sloppy thinking. You have to ridicule them because they deserve it. And if you do those things, you start to win. If you do those things, they retreat into their safe spaces and trigger warnings. They stop bothering you, and you start winning elections. And that's what's happened on American college campuses. We have to be courageous enough to challenge these people. We have to be courageous enough to take the fight to them. Conservative tactics on campuses, like in the media and in the entertainment industry, have been largely ineffective for the last 30 years, but that is changing. And it's changing thanks to students like Ariana and Tom and Hunter. It's changing thanks to the army that is being awoken, thanks to Donald Trump. It's very exciting to watch it. And with the rise of new, more persuasive, more glamorous, and more fabulous activists for conservatism, again, I'm talking about me, in part inspired by Trump and in part giving rise to him, the culture wars we have now realized are not over. They just haven't been fought recently. And now is the time for you to start fighting them again. We're in a state of war. We're in a state of war not only at home with progressives, people who want to tear down the values that make this country and all the other countries like it great, but we're also at war with Islam. This is a faith that murders people like me. And it's a faith that the progressive left welcomes into your shores, panders to it, mollycoddles it. And I don't care, I'm tired of being polite about the distinction between radical Islam and Islam. I'm done. I'm done. The politicians who pander to this stuff are not friends of women, not friends of blacks, not friends of gays, they're not friends of anyone. And it has to stop. And the only way it will stop is by electing people like Donald Trump into the White House, who will not pander to Islam. Not radical Islam, but Islam. He will not take vast checks from Saudi Arabia, as Hillary Clinton has done, and then pander to gays at home. It is disgusting. You know, the stupidest people in the world, have you ever seen in one of these Toronto, I mean, that sort of says it all, but one of these Toronto marches, have you ever seen a sign, Queers for Palestine? 97% of them want you dead. But this is the sort of stuff we've got to break through. And we do it with humor, and we do it with love, and we do it with laughter. And that's my message to you. My message to you is laughter and war. My message to you is recapture, rediscover that phrase that we heard this evening that everybody reads in the sadly deceased National Review. There is still something being published with that name, but the magazine is gone. Rediscover the phrase happy warrior. I am a very happy warrior, and the happier I get, the more I win. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, and thank you for this.